A lot of the boomers think Gen Z are lazy and they're not working hard enough because when they were our age, they had the land, the income, the car, the house, the family. But Gen Z looks like a failure. So is it because Gen Z is lazy, or does Gen Z have a bad economy than any generation before? My guest, Desi Kaligoli, which translates to Indian Black Pill, has a lot of information to expose the reality. So Jed, everybody says, men peak at 30. All of us are peaking in debt, anxiety, in rent. What is the difference? Was it always like that for all the older generations before us, or is it just us that have been isolated and given different conditions?
The explosion in real estate cost in proportion to the increase in salary of today's young middle class man, and how back then, even though the salary was small in numerical form, it had more weight. The real value of that salary was manifold. So we compared that a 100 square yard plot in the 1950s in Delhi was around 125 rupees. A clerk's annual salary was around 100 to 150 rupees. So a clerk could purchase a 100 square yard plot in Delhi by saving his around 1 year's income. So he could fairly easily purchase this, right? And we saw that today the same 100 square yard plot in Delhi costs around 1.2 crore rupees, while a graduate salary is around 25,000 to 40,000 rupees. And even if a graduate is on the upper edge of things, that he's earning 40,000 and he's saving every single penny of that 40,000 earned, and that the price of the property is similar, all things considered, then even then the graduate will have to save up to around 20 years to make sure he can purchase that land. So this is what we had discussed so far.
Okay, perfect. So I want you to see a boomer's video.
All right. Give me a second. I'll probably see to it. Yes, I do see it, and I'm just consolidating my opinion on it because it is just so stupid. give me a minute to just just put my words into place.
भी ग्रेट काम कर ले, ठीक है, तो इंडिया ग्रेट हो चुका होता, पर फैक्ट है कि कुछ ग्रेट हो नहीं रहा भाई साहब। ये लूजर लोग इकट्ठे हो गए क्योंकि कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा, तो कहीं तो वैलिडेशन मिल जाए कि हाँ ये अंगूर खट्टे हैं, शादी तो देह का सुख है और प्रॉपर्टी तो ये बिल्डरों को पैसा कमाने के लिए है। ये बारिश होगी तो बचाएगा नहीं मुझे, है ठंड से बचाएगा नहीं घर, ये घर खरीद लिया तो बिल्डर पैसे कमा लेगा, पॉलिटिशियन कमा लेगा, बेचने वाला कमा लेगा, ताकि इनका फायदा ना हो जाए, तो फिर मैं घर नहीं खरीदता। बहुत बड़ा सेक्रीफाइस। इतने घर बन ही नहीं रहे, घरों में इतनी लाइन लगी पड़ी है कई जगह। तो आई होप अगली बार से कोई चीज समझ में आएगी। नेक्स्ट टाइम यू फाइंड योरसेल्फ ट्रोलिंग समबडी और राइटिंग अगेंस्ट, आस्क कि भाई मेरा स्टेटस क्या है, मैं खरीद पा रहा हूं? कौन आदमी है जो शादी कर पा रहा है?
First of all, let's look into the data. All right, this boomer wants you to live like a peasant. Why are you not having children? Back in our day we had 4 children. Why you, who has a single income of 50,000, are not having children? Why don't you want your children to live in poverty? Why are you not purchasing a house? As if the average house costs around like 1 lakh rupees. Cost of a 2 BHK in NCR is around 50 lakhs. How is a person who has just graduated, just entered the workforce, supposed to have 50 lakhs? So this just shows an insane amount of, you would say, contempt towards the younger generations that boomers hold.
I feel like the starting line is very rigged. Okay, given data that you're looking at, that you just showed us here, right? In 1 year's salary, the clerk could buy a land. I have to wait 40 to 400 years in best case scenario. Now, so
that's the best case scenario.
So what that means is that our starting lines are very different in a race. Let's say I'm starting 1 kilometer back than he's starting. Obviously, I have no fair chance to finish at the same time. Like I have no chance of winning, right? But boomers have this very condescending attitude towards younger guys. I think they're relying on ignorance, right? It's like, why should I acknowledge the privileges that I have and disadvantages that Gen Z has? Because if I acknowledge those disadvantages, that will diminish his success. Because essentially he's won a rigged game in comparison, right? So if a fighter wins a fight and the fight was rigged, Why would the fighter acknowledge that the fight was rigged? Because it invalidates his success. So I think this guy believes that if he acknowledges that he has some privileges, that would make his success invalid in comparison to Gen Z. So he instead takes a very different approach, which is to deny that no, Gen Z and us are at the same level, but data clearly debunks that, in your opinion.
I think it is, of course, but I think it's also a sort of nostalgic glorification of yourself. For example, let me just give you an example. Today, you have boomers sitting around cursing Gen Z males that, back in our day, we used to go out, we used to play. Today's kids don't do anything. They just sit on their computers all day, right? That's a fairly, that's everyone says that. So once I asked one of these guys, back in your day, how was the air quality? Back in your day, how was the water quality? Back in your day, how was the safety of kids? Was it worse or was it better? And the boomer obviously had to walk back, because you cannot expect 10-year-olds to play in what is 500 AQI. But the boomer wants to glorify his own 10-year-old self, and he can only do that by attacking 10-year-olds alive today. He has internalized the fact that back in our day there was a lot of poverty, there was a lot of struggle, which certainly was the case, but it wasn't the case for him. And so therefore, today when that has been reduced by numbers, not by proportion, so today's kids should do far better than us. And he doesn't see that he had a lot of advantages that today's people simply do not have.
True. Let's read some chat, then we'll move on. The unkill gives me ick. So my echo is still coming back. Can you mute it for just a moment?
Sure.
This unkill gives me ick every time he spawns on my YouTube page. Oh, the boomer guy. In my opinion, as much as I've seen him, he's a sharp-minded property dealer who gaslights men in every way possible to buy flats. So he's a dealer as well, which makes sense, because then you want to shame people into buying your product, right? Kaligoli, what is the name of your Reddit page? Guys, I have pinned his channel link in the chat. Do you have a Reddit page, Kaligoli?
I have a Reddit account, but I'm not very active on it. So I wouldn't recommend anyone following it.
Okay, chat, his YouTube page is linked. It's in the pinned chat. Please go follow him. Stango Uncle says not to do job, but do only business. Any opinion on that, Dasi Kaligoli?
I can't give you any opinion on that. You know this better than I do.
I mean, it is realistically impossible for everybody to do business, because there are not enough opportunities to do business, because
everyone is doing business.
Who's buying?
Who is working?
It's illogical in nature. Yeah, I think, and most importantly, the successful businesses rely upon high demand, low supply, right? So if everybody starts getting into a business, that means that every market is getting saturated, which means that most people are failing. Then we come back to square one, that most people cannot start a business because that's not how the market works.
Exactly. And to start a business, successful business, the biggest thing you need are connections. So if I start a business at 20-year-olds, when did I build my connections?
Right.
Right. So it's just.
I think I think these people just lack empathy. They're very dismissive because they don't have the same experiences that younger guys have.
Yes, I think they feel that they are entitled to giving wisdom to the younger generations, even if the wisdom they give is bullshit. Because, I'm sure their ancestors gave wisdom to them, but the world has changed almost 4 times between the generations of our grandfather and us, than they and their grandfathers. Their grandfathers were agrarian in nature. They were too when they were born. When we were born into a working class environment. It just simply does not apply.
True. Okay, so let me ask you something. So it looks like from the data that you were just showing, I'll put it back on the screen. So it looks like, if I had to draw a conclusion from this data, it looks like we are making progress, but we are making progress to the bottom. So why does it feels like it's more than inflation, right? Earlier I was asking you, is it just the inflation? You said, no, there's more than that. So how are we ending up in this place where, GDP of India is going up and up and up? It's the third largest economy. But everybody else, all the middle class men in Gen Z, they're all drowning. What's happening?
Well, it's actually very simple. What you are dealing with is a sort of hierarchy which isn't even, right? So let's talk about real estate. You said to me that this boomer is a real estate, what you would say, agent. So he has a vested interest in making sure that a young man takes on EMI so he can buy a house, so that he makes a buck. So he wants to extract as much as he can from the middle class man, who, no offense, well, to be honest, you can take offense, I don't really care. To the females of India, young middle class ambitious men are the backbone of growth of any society. Not just India, any society is guided by ambitious middle class men. And because India is a deeply bureaucratized society, the bureaucrats can't afford ambitious young middle class men. So they beat them down with artificial limitations to make sure that they can't even get above the basic livelihoods. For example, Delhi today is, let's be frank, shit. Absolute shit. It's pathetic as a city. And the best parts of Delhi were constructed in the 60s by DLF, which was a private body. But then the Delhi government step in, controlled by bureaucrats, and they make the DDA Act, which categorically declares that all property development in Delhi would now be done by the DDA. And so DDA has a monopoly, the bureaucrats have a monopoly. So a young middle class man who was genuinely interested in going into civil engineering or going into property development now can't do that. And what we end up are less businesses, less well-paying jobs, and a shittier quality of life.
That's interesting. And I also think that the most important resource in the world is actually, people think that it's gold, but in reality, I believe it's human beings. It's not oil, it's not gold, because in order for you to extract oil and mine gold, you need humans. So just like we exploit oil and gold, we have a tendency, the corporation have a tendency to exploit human beings. And I have this interesting thought process, like if you were looking at human beings as fuel to
Yes.
run your vehicle or run your machine, like which fuel has a better mileage? And I believe that men end up performing better in almost every job than women. And a lot of people look at it as an advantage, but don't you think it's a disadvantage? Because just like gold is valuable, oil is valuable, it is vulnerable to exploitation. And if men can do more in the workforce, then they're vulnerable to exploitation. So do you not think that that plays a role into what you were just saying?
I would like to add something. I think your thought process is entirely correct, but I want to add something.
Sure.
In men, it's not just men as a whole. The men who have something to lose are the ones which produce the most mileage for these corporations. Right?
Okay.
So let's say that I'm a drunkard. I don't care. I won't do the job. And let's say I'm an ambitious young man with some resources. I'll do the bare minimum and then I'll walk out to build something else. But if I have a man who has enough to lose, then I'll just slave away my life because I have something to lose. Right? So those are the men who are exploited the most.
Yeah.
I'm in a law university. It's a very old law university, obviously. And my law university produces mostly litigators, people who go and argue in courts. So the law firms usually don't come here. So once I was talking to a, what you would call recruiter, and I asked him one simple question. Why is it that law firms, mid-tier law firms, go for tier 2 national law universities? And he told me one thing which is very interesting. Because usually the students who go to those universities are those who could not get into or afford the tier 1 NLUs, right? But they didn't want to go, they didn't go to the tier 3 NLUs. So they're stuck in the middle. And precisely because they are stuck in the middle, they are the people who, as he quoted, provide the most potential, which basically means that we can exploit them more readily.
So I think we can go back to your screen.
Let's just go. I guess
Yeah.
we got stuck on this for a bit too long.
So
Right.
yeah, so okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So what is the baseline here? Have you switched to my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
So the baseline is that you are drowning in debt. Now, I don't need to tell you what debt is, right? But I think it will be interesting for us to note how badly Gen Z, especially Gen Z men, are screwed when it comes to their relationship with debt. Well, depression, then there is despair. So let's talk about debt accumulation. We are talking about loan penetration, aka how many people have loans. So let's talk about 35-year-olds. And let's talk about a 35-year-old has twice the amount of debt.
Wait, hold on. I accidentally triggered something. Just wait. Go back a bit.
Yeah, sure. To debt accumulation?
Yeah, just stop here. Chad, I'm sorry, I accidentally triggered this meme. We'll just wait it out.
So let's talk about debt accumulation.
Yeah, go ahead.
For that, we have to talk about this thing called loan penetration, which basically means how many people in a particular demographic have had to take loans, right? So we find out, it's very interesting, that 35-year-olds have twice the amount of debt that any other party has, right? And the percentage, and this is very important, this fact, the percentage of population with personal loans is 30% in millennials and 40% in Gen Z. Let me just state something for you. Gen Z are all under 25 years old. 40% of people less than 25-year-old in India have personal loans. 40%. And so the average debt is around 5.6 lakhs per person.
And that's for people under 29 years.
Under 25. The 40% mark is for people under 25. So if you have 10 people, there is a good chance that at least almost half of them have some sort of personal loan on them. And none of them are over 25.
Chad, how many of you have loans? So it basically says 1 in 2 Gen Z is under a debt. How many of you guys are under a debt? If you are, type yes in the chat so we can see you.
Student loans and yeah, a lot of them.
So let's throw a poll. I'm genuinely curious how many of our audiences are under a debt. Okay. Are you in debt? Do you have a loan? Yes. No. Chat, there's a poll in the chat. Can you guys all vote? I want to see how many of you guys have taken a loan. We can move forward in the meantime. JD1223 says this is wrong data. JD, why do you think this is wrong? Where did you extract this data from? Just curious. BKG.
Yeah, sure. I'll just give you the source of the data I extracted from.
Sure. That's why they support more and more women working and competing with men. Actually, I'm gonna later show you a clip which
all of these, the questions you guys have, the legitimate questions you guys have, they will be answered as things go on, right? So let me just tell you the source of this data, good friend.
Sure.
The source of the data that I have on debt, or specifically about young foot, it's from the Youth Financial Health Index 2023 from the NCAER survey of the Youth Financial Health Index 2023. NCEAR, if you don't know what that is, let me just tell you real quick. The NCEAR is essentially a regulatory body, right? It
National
is
Council of
the
Applied
National
Economic
Council of
Research.
Applied Economic Research. Right, so it's a government research organization, and according to its youth, according to its according to its youth financial health index. So basically, a survey which was conducted specifically on the financial health of youth found out that 40% of Gen Z men have debt on them, and this is in 2023. So the average, the Gen Z was around 23 years old back then. So this has probably gotten worse.
Interesting. So 40% of guys in our chat have voted that they have loans. Majority of my audience is evenly divided between 18 to 25 and 26 to 35, 50-50. So,
Right, and yes.
so yeah, 40% of them have loans. Chad, this is what you guys are voting. Yeah, but we can move forward. Go ahead.
Right. So what's the average debt, right? So, well, of course, we know that 40%, which is, again, I cannot stress enough how mind-boggling this statistic is, right? And we find that basically the typical borrower under the age of 29 has a loan of 5.6 lakh rupees. A typical borrower under the age of 29. And I have already told you that even on the higher end of things, an average salaried man in India in this age range is making 40,000 per month.
That's a crazy number.
And I also suppose some of you will ask for the source of this. The source of this is an editorial which was written by none other than an ex-RBI governor, Raghuram Rajan, which is titled The Crisis of Middle Class Finance. This is an ex-RBI governor telling you how bad this situation is.
Yeah, it looks pretty dark.
Well, I don't think it can. It's it's only growing. It's not. It has the loan penetration. The first statistic, as you can see, loan penetration among men under 35 has doubled between 2015 and 2021 due to app-based lending. Basically, you see these very exploitative PIN loan apps which no one regulates, obviously. And this has essentially youth indebtedness has doubled in the past 6 years.
So that makes me wonder that if a 29-year-old, like under 29-year-old, has 5.6 lakh in debt.
This is the average. This is the average debt.
But does he even have that money to like pay off this debt? Like, what does that even look like?
Well, yeah. So he doesn't have that money, and that's why. And that's actually good for the loaners, because that means that they can extract more money from him over a long period of time.
Okay. I think you can go to the next slide.
The average, of course, the average debt under 29. So average income of a man on that same range is around 6 lakh per year. And the average debt is 5.6 lakh per year. An year of earnings, given that he's giving every single penny that he earns back, which obviously is not happening, he needs to live, is going to be wiped out by your debt. Right? And let's talk about another interesting thing, which is household savings. So for example, if you guys don't know, a household savings is how much percentage of GDP is compromised by capital saved by different households. For example, every house, every family has little, or in some cases more amount of money stored for, let's say, emergency or for other purposes, and that compromises around 5.3% of the GDP. This is EMIs, that what you call extra monthly income, is around 30 to 40% of a family's monthly income. Of course, these are averages. And this source, again, you might ask for source, and you rightfully so, you should ask for sources, is by the NIPFP's working paper number 428, which was published in 2023. Now, for you guys don't know what NIPFP is, let me just tell you that. NIPFP is again another research foundation, and it is the full form of this research foundation is the National Institute for Public Finance and Policy. Basically, it is another government institution. So a government institution is itself admitting that EMIs make up 30 to 40% of a average house's monthly income. Well, it's pretty dark. Household savings today are 5.3% of the GDP. Now this data might look jolly enough, 5.3%, that's a reasonable number, until you compare it to previous data. We find that this is the lowest since 1970s. The amount proportion to the growth of the GDP of the country is the lowest since 1970s. Now some of you may say that that's because GDP is growing, so obviously savings look small compared to that. But in a country where the GDP grows, household savings should also grow, because people will save more money. What this means is they have to now dig into their household savings just to get by, right? And let's talk about household debt is 17.1% of the GDP. That is, let me just put this into perspective. If we reach $5 trillion in a few years, which is most likely, then household debt in India would be $1 trillion.
So household savings are going down and debt is going up.
Is increasing, exactly. And this is like 3 times. This is more than 3 times.
Can you click next on your slide?
Yeah, sure. This is the highest ever.
Wow,
Savings
that's
are the
insane.
lowest ever. This is the highest ever.
So it looks like it answers some of our questions that why the country feels like it's going up and up, but it's getting worse and worse for middle class is because they're drowning in debt. It's basically like quicksand that is consuming them. So the health of the I think it would also extrapolate into like the rich are getting richer, poor are getting poorer, right? So the country as a whole looks like it's doing good, but that is just an illusion because the middle class is doing worse than before. Can you still hear me? Hello? Okay, I think we lost him. DKG, we cannot hear you. You're on mute now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay, perfect.
All right. Hopefully the quality is not bad.
Yeah, it's all good.
Alright,
My
so
echo is still coming back again.
Oh, all right. Give me.
Chat, these are some pretty dark numbers. I didn't know it was that bad. Great insights, thank you. Chat, if you like the research, please go follow the channel. His channel link is pinned.
Hopefully for some reason my mic, I have to constantly switch between outputs to sound all right.
Okay.
It appears to be some technical issue. We'll get over it.
Okay, sure. I think you can move forward.
All right. So now let's talk about retail credit. And this is going to get bad, man. If you guys don't know what retail credit is, let me just tell you that real quick. And it's not that hard of a concept to wrap your head around, although it may appear that it's a hard concept. It's fairly easy. A lot of economics is just jargon. Retail credit basically means the various form of credits and lending offered to individuals for personal use. For example, your credit card, or your गरीब किसान जमींदार से जाके पैसे मांग रहा है अपनी बेटी की शादी के लिए. All of these things are part of what we call retail credit. Retail credit in 2017 was 12.1% of GDP. High still, but fairly all right, I would say. Not that particularly bad when you compare it to today. Today it is 19.4% of the GDP. This is according to a report by the Reserve Bank of India. Right? So 19.4% of the GDP. That means, again, the GDP today is around $4 trillion. So that would make it, so if this is growing, by the way, so it'll probably go to around 20%. So when we have $5 trillion of GDP, $1 trillion would be retail credit. That is, again, lending. People lending liquid money to survive. Let's talk about credit card debt. Credit card debt today is 2.9 lakh crore in pure numbers. 2.9 lakh crores. This is according to a report by Manish Sabir. If you guys don't know who Manish Sabir is, he's a commentator, and he's considered fairly, I would say, he's actually considered mostly a right-wing economic commentator, but even he had to concede this. Personal loan has grown by 75% in 4 years. This is explosive growth. This is unprecedented growth. Unsecured loans, 50% of all unsecured loans are often held by contractual youth, aka youth, read male, who are under 25, who are working on contracts. That means don't even have a permanent job, and they hold 50% of unsecured loans.
So what does
So
that
of
mean?
that-
So let me ask you something. So you're saying unsecured loans, and
Yes.
I talked to you earlier. You were saying that the biggest mafia in your town is not religious, it's not political, it's not communal, it is financial. Financial companies are the biggest mafia now. So what did you mean by that? It says unsecured loans 50%, but what does that even mean?
This is where it gets interesting. An unsecured loan basically means that you don't have any assets to deposit as security.
So how do they
Now
pay
you
back?
may ask-
What happens if they don't pay back?
Well, that's the point. They have no other option but to pay back.
But I don't have the money. Then what?
Don't care. Work yourself through the bone. Pay us back. Because if you put your house up as a security, right? The bank can seize your house and then you are free. But in the case of an unsecured loan, you are putting your existence as security.
Wow, that's crazy.
This is modern day slavery, by the way. This is nothing but modern day slavery. And 50% of them is held by contractual youth. They don't even have what you would call a permanent income. So that's the amount of things we are dealing with today. Boy, I love living in Wish Guru land. So let's move forward.
Yeah, go
you
go
want to
one more
ask something?
slide, then we'll take a pause for the chat.
All right. Loan recovery agents are pushing men to self-delete. Obviously, I don't need to tell you what happens when you can't pay back loans. You have
Okay,
no
so
other option but to-
so chat, I don't know how many of you guys have seen this documentary. I don't know, it's probably made by BBC. And I don't know, DKG, if you saw that. But they were basically describing how these loan recovery agents basically harass people. And a lot of times,
Yes.
not only do they end up self-deleting themselves, but sometimes they murder other people, like their own family members, for the purposes of stealing the money to pay off the loan. And so
Yes,
I came
yes,
across
yes.
this really interesting... can you mute yourself? The echo is coming back just for a moment.
Just sorry.
Okay, sure. So I came across this really interesting study. It was in one of my videos, and I want to show you guys again. Give me one sec.
Right. So I have actually, I believe I have seen that documentary.
No,
Right.
we're not watching the documentary. I just want to show you some stat. Give me a second.
Yeah, sure. Can you read out them statistics if that's not a problem?
Yeah, I'll read it out. So this was in one of my videos. I can't remember which one. I think it was the cheating one probably. But it basically said that research has shown that people who experience stress from financial issues and debt are 20 times more likely to attempt self-delete than those who do not experience this type of stress. So where you were just saying that 40% of the Gen Z is in debt, and that debt is equivalent to 1 year of their income. If 1 in 2 people in Gen Z are under debt, and if they can't pay it off, and these recovery loan agents are harassing them, the risk of them deleting themselves increases by 20 times than usual.
I'm going to wager that the real number of percentage is probably more. That is because these surveys are built upon self-reporting. And a lot of people just simply don't self-report. So
Yeah,
more or
somewhat
less
true.
that number would be almost, I would say twice, almost 40%. But that other 20% never reported because, of course, the social stigma around suicide. Can't even die peacefully in this country. There is a
Wow,
literal law which allows police to imprison people who attempted suicide.
that's crazy. And are you serious? Is that real?
Yes, that is real. It's part of the IRPC.
You what,
Let me just
imprison
tell you the name
people?
of that. Yes, you get arrested if you commit suicide. Let me just pull it up from my notes.
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious what IPC is that, or I think it's
Yeah, so
BNS now.
section 309 of the Indian Penal Code of the basically states that quote, whoever attempts to commit suicide or does any effects towards the commission of such offense shall be punished with a simple imprisonment of a term which may extend to 1 year.
Chad, it's
You
true.
can
Let
be put
me.
into jail for a year because you tried to commit suicide.
Okay, say self-delete. Don't say the S word.
So sorry. So if you try to do self delete, you can be literally put into jail for 1 year. What are we doing here, gang?
This is crazy. All right, let me take some chat. I have a margin saying I have a 2 lakh personal loan. It is just 16.5% of my income, but it is still a personal loan. Yeah, so I think a lot of people. So don't you think that everything is now on subscription basis, right? Like nobody owns anything anymore.
Yeah, yeah, of course, because we are living in a techno feudal society. Right? So techno feudalism was basically a peasant used to work 24/7, but all the grains and all the amount of money he made used to go to his lord. Today you grind everything, but the money you the money you pay goes to Jeff Bezos. So you may work, but you don't own anything. So that's a techno feudal society.
But I can see why that is. Just mute yourself for one moment.
My bad.
Try to do a habit where when I'm speaking you mute it so the echo doesn't come back. Okay, so but it's an interesting model for the capitalists, right? Because if nobody owns everything, if everything is on subscription basis, that means endless stream of revenue because everybody is always going to be paying something if they don't own anything, right? Forever pay the rent, forever pay the loans, forever pay the interest. So it works very well for the rich, and this is why the rich are getting richer, but the middle class is going down because their agency and their economic power is being stripped right in front of their eyes. So everything is just EMIs and subscriptions now. That's what it looks like, right?
Precisely. It is perhaps the most profitable form of economic relations that the bourgeoisie could have asked for.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's take some chat. Give me a sec. Okay. So Margarine was asking, where is he? Okay, yeah, he said, talk about the rising rent and property rate. Yeah, Margarine, so I think I answered you. You missed it. We did it early on. JD said, ask him one of my questions. JD, what was your question? JD, can you send the question again? I think it got buried. Okay, he's asking, what should the youth do in today's time, given the
You
problem?
can do nothing. You really can't do anything.
Yeah, I think JD, you missed his name. It says Desi Kaligoli. He's a black pillar. The idea of black pill is to have no
I mean,
hope.
I guess you can like try to live like frugally. That's the best thing you can do, because it's like those videos. It's just a huge CGI monster is eating the moon, and the caption is, "What are you going to do now?" What the fuck am I supposed to do?
It's kind of like a cliffhanger. I don't think anybody has a good solution. So, chat, what I'll do, I anticipated that since he's a black pillar, he will not have any solutions. But in the middle of the stream, I will show you the actual problem, the core cause of the problem. Okay, so just wait for that. However, I don't know whether it can be solved or not. That I will leave it up to you to decide. Okay, but I will tell you where this problem is coming from mainly. Rather than providing mental support, they will be jailed, and this is crazy. Yeah, it's very crazy. Panda says minimalistic lifestyle. Yeah, I will cover a little bit of that as well. I was under the impression that minimalism would and I think we also talked about how birth rates are going down, and I was under the impression that if birth rates go down, inflation increases. But I was doing some research and I was very wrong about that. I think if you have lower birth rates, technically deflation happens. However, the nuance is that the automation is replacing a lot of the jobs. So even if you don't have the babies, the deflation will not happen, but inflation can also be controlled. So your personal individual life is probably improved. It doesn't get worse. Like, what's your thought on that? I think Japan is a good example. Probably.
JD has actually given the best answer. He has written a comment. In next generation, get born in a rich family, otherwise it's over. That's my answer to you. Get born in a rich family.
Yeah, so chat, those are your odds. Okay, so what do you think about I've always heard that women always see a lot of these empowerment campaigns, and men get to see the loan and insurance ads. So since we're talking about debt, do you think men have more debt or women? Like, what does that comparison look like? Any idea? And
who do you think is funding those empowerment campaigns?
Our tax money, probably.
Yes. The amount of money you send back, the amount of extra payments you do, they all get taxed. The money you make from betting apps, which are like pennies on the dollar, they get taxed. The losses you make on the apps, which result in profits for the owner, get taxed 30%.
But also, I don't know if you've noticed, but the majority of the labor force in India is dominated by men. Women have, I think, 20 to 30% participation rate. And if you see a 30% number, that's also misleading because they count it as...
So that number is like basically for what you would consider the salaried class.
Correct. Yeah, no. I think if I understood correctly, they have two classifications, which is that subsidiary status and principal status. One of those means that you have secured a job for at least 1 month in a year. The other one means you have a long-term job, right? So when you isolate, instead of combining the numbers, just isolate the ones where they have long-term.
I wouldn't take that number, especially for the labor class, very seriously, because the reporting is like, it cannot be done properly. But yeah, it still makes sense.
But hear me out. So even if you take like the long-term employment, that number probably comes out to 20% for women, right? And for men, it's probably like 56-60%. So a majority of the tax then is being paid by men, and majority of the tax is being used for women's welfare, because last time we checked, they are clocking in about 8.1% of the gender budget. Like there's a total budget for India, and then 8%, 8 to 9% of that pie is given to women first. And that is exponentially more than what they give to, for example, road and transport ministry. I think their percentage is probably 3%. So women get like probably 2 or 3 times more than what they get. So we have like this elitism problem, like, right? Like the men are the working class, and then women become the profiting class. But what do you think is the relation between an average man and average woman today, in your opinion?
You are a serf. A serf was you are bonded labor basically, and the woman is lording over you. That's the baron, the zamindar, the jagirdar, and you are their bandua mazdoor. And the state is the guards, which is used to beat you up. And within that state there is a person like Premchand who will write stuff, and that will get published, and then you'll be told that you are oppressing the zamindar by I don't know, microaggressions in not planting the seeds well or something. Alright, but I think we should make an important distinction here,
Sure.
that welfare programs, as lopsided they are, don't make women rich, but they give them a huge upper hand in agrarian relations. Because
What does that
a woman
mean?
just by simply existing is getting 3,000 a month, right? So the amount of power that gives to women in rural areas is just huge, because you're not getting anything, but a woman is getting 3,000 rupees a month by not doing anything. So, and she'll earn more doing other things. So she just has a huge advantage over you, huge sort of power domination.
So I remember seeing a report by SPI. Let me show it on my screen. Guys, I'll read your chat in just a minute. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I'll wait a while. But I feel like when I said the 8 to 9% of the budget is given for women's welfare, I was only talking about the one that is given to women and child welfare ministry. But on top of that, then these states are coming up with these extra policies, right? Like BJP in Haryana would give 2,100 per month free to women.
Ladli Behna Yojana goes brrrr. Is the
Yes.
thing you're looking for.
So, and we were talking about debt, right? So I think don't you think that it also changes the dynamic of the bargaining power that each gender gets? Like,
Well, I told you this before. Just by getting 21, I'm not probably in Haryana, because Haryana is probably richer, but in general, in rural India, getting like 3,000 just by existing gives you a huge upper hand in power dynamics, right? Because a lot of the times those 3,000 is the money which is used to make ends meet, or to become the houses, what's considered the houses, you would call disposable income. And because that disposable income is linked to simply a woman existing in the household, the woman by virtue of that gets a huge upper hand, almost unimaginably a large upper hand.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think basically what it sums up to is that only the desperate latch onto the loans and the debts. And if somebody is secured financially at the bottom, they will be less likely to fall in the trap of a debt, because I have alternatives, right? And men don't have alternatives. And what's interesting to me is that it's basically become a money laundering scheme, is that we make men work and then we collect taxes. We give those taxes for the benefit of the women, and then women are less desperate, right? They're more privileged, less vulnerable. They have more bargaining power. They have more alternatives. So they are less vulnerable to falling into the debt trap that men do. Which seemed like an interesting dynamic to me.
It is a virtuous cycle for them. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. But
Yeah, go ahead.
basically, it is a virtuous cycle for them, and it is an extremely vicious cycle for us.
Correct. Okay, so we'll read some chat and move on. And I found what I was looking for. So let me show you something super interesting. Where is it? Okay, here. Give me a moment. So this is my screen. Let me share that with you too. DKG. So chat, look at my screen. So this is a tweet. However, the source is coming from RBI and SBI research. Okay, so India is witnessing a paradigm shift. Financialization of women in India. The share of women depositors in rural India in overall incremental share is now at 66%. This has far-reaching consequences. This is empowering women at breakneck speed. So what it basically said that the share of incremental balance or incremental deposits in the bank accounts is not only increasing for women, but it's more than men. So this was tweeted by, this is a share of women depositors. I think financial year is 2021, roughly. So look at the rural, 66% for financial year 2022. Which is, I think it says 43% growth.
Yeah.
And all
So
India,
it basically just proves.
yeah, go ahead.
So it basically just proves what I was saying, no? Because now the women have more disposable income because of all the welfare schemes, they're depositing it back in the banks. So that's just that fact, which I'm very glad you read out, just simply illustrates that the point of females getting a dominant hand in gender dynamics because of getting money for merely existing has greatly increased and at the same time greatly decreased the situation that the relation they have with men and put men in a very perilous situation.
Interesting. Okay, let's take some chat. The free money given to women adds to inflation. Does it, DKG? Does it add to inflation?
I mean, to some inflation, but it's not very like prominently. So some
Okay.
inflation, but not that much, honestly.
Mick, bro, what do you think about Japanese men, samurai duels? I don't understand your question, Ark. I just don't understand your question. Rewrite that. We don't have sufficient job. What's the point of such empowerment campaign? Okay, yeah. So let's talk about jobs. So we have so much debt. The real estate is totally unaffordable. What is the condition of job? So when we talk about government jobs, what does it feel like? Getting a government job is kind of like winning a Squid Game.
It's actually worse than winning Squid Game.
It's
And,
worse.
I'll just tell you. I'll just illustrate with an example. No, seriously, it's worse than how many people. How many people were involved in a game of Squid Game in the show?
Hundreds, weren't they
Right.
hundreds? Probably.
100, right? And 3 people could win. So that means that the winning chances of a single candidate was 3%
Yeah.
at minimum, right?
Yes.
The chances of a person entering into government services is less than 1%.
What, really? Is that true?
You have a better. I'll demonstrate. I have the fact. You have a better chance of winning fucking Squid Game than getting a government job.
Okay, so I'm switching to your screen. I think you can go to your PPT.
Right. So let's just move
Wow,
forward.
that is chat. This live stream, I think you guys were asking for finance for a long time, but DKG has some hard facts, chat. He's dropping some bombs. So if you guys like his research, please go follow him. His channel link is pinned in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, DKG. Okay, state of public sector. Wait, let me move this. Hold on one second. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, state of public sector. And I'll let you go.
Right. State of the public sector. Quick note, it's not good. right? So, and it's an endless waiting lobby with no exit and no start button. So, constable jobs in Uttar Pradesh in 2024 were around 60,000. Now, constable are not commissioned officers, by the way, right? But it's still a fairly prestigious position. The applicants were 48 lakhs. That's 80 applicants per post, right? So, for a single post of constable, 80 people have applied. And this is the Uttar Pradesh police. The railway group D, which again, no offense to people working group D, is the bottom of what you would consider the railway government hierarchy. There were around 1.39 lakhs posts in the railways group D sector. 1.25 crore people applied. That is 90 applicants per post. For the SSC-CGL 2022, you had 20,000 jobs. Fairly prestigious. None of these are what you would consider top tier bureaucratic jobs, but they're still considered, I would say, fairly prestigious. There were 30 lakh applicants, 150 applicants per job. Boy. So the public sector, even the postgraduates are chasing 25,000 rupees clerk job. 25,000 per month. You can, even if you have some sort of seniority and some goodwill in speaking English, some sort of fluency, you can probably get more than this working in what is a call center. If you are fluent enough in English and you have the relevant communication skills.
So public sector looks really bad. I think your numbers were accurate. So there's not even a 3% chance of you succeeding.
So let me just tell you something real quick, right? The Deccan Herald on July 2024 reported that around the chances of an aspirant getting a government job was less than 1%.
Oh my God.
And okay, and this is where it gets interesting. Let's say there are 100 people in the Squid Game tournament. We know from the show that 3 people can win from the first season. So that is a 3% chance of you winning Squid Game. And the chance of you getting into a government job is less than 1%. You have a higher chance of winning Squid Game than landing a government job in India. And here's where it gets interesting, right? So I think I saw the facts, right? And you saw the facts that for 25,000 jobs, there were like 60 lakh people, 150, 80, 90, 100, 150 people applying for one post. Let's take 100 posts of that as an average. For an average government job opening, 100 people applied. Now, what is the population of Seoul?
Of what?
That's
Of CEO?
The population of Seoul, again, we are using the Squid Game analogy here.
Seoul, okay, the city
Yeah,
Seoul, South Korea.
Sorry, my bad. It's
Okay.
around 94 lakhs. Right? And, let's assume that, of course, not a lot of people here want to go into Squid Game, that all of them want to go into Squid Game. Right? Every single person in Seoul, regardless of their age, gender, wants to go into Squid Game. So that would mean that the chances of them getting inside Squid Game is around, and this is very sad, I would say. This isn't even fun, this is just sad. I mean, it's fun to tell you guys this, but it's sad. The chances of them getting into Squid Game is around the same as you getting a government job. And the chances of them winning Squid Game is more than you getting a government job. You ain't getting a job, lil bro, is what I'm saying to you.
Jessa is asking, why are you shocked, Mick? It is the reality of government jobs in India.
Yes, but you see how extremely, I call this bureau granda, because everywhere you look, they are putting the same things in your face. And no one is running it by the facts.
Insane. Okay, so
my mother, constantly tells me to go into the civil services. And so I often tell her, this is the situation that they are dealing with. So she resorts with, no offense, I love my mother, she's a great woman, जो मेहनत करता है उसका हो जाता है. Now what am I supposed to do here?
I think these metaphors and moral lecturing has expired. It is no longer valid. So it looks good, it looks very good to hear.
Yeah, so think of it this way. Dettol kills 99%, 0.99% of the germs in your hand. If you are a germ in a hand and Dettol is poured onto you, what are you supposed to do? So if I am a government aspirant and the chances of me getting in is 0.1%, what am I even supposed to do at? If it was around like 30%, I could have seen, I'll work hard. But if it's 0.1%, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, it looks pretty bad. So what is the situation in private sector? Can you mute for just a moment?
Sure.
So I think public sector to me looks like doom and gloom. But what is the situation in private sector? So I came across an article. I want to ask your opinion on this. Okay, so just give me one moment. I'll just switch over. Yeah, so what's happening to job in the private sector? So I came across this articles, and it basically talks about food delivery guys, like basically like Zomato types of people, right? And it was telling me some starking numbers. Chat, you'll be surprised at what this thing says. Okay, so they have taken some data from one of the delivery companies. It's called P2.in. Give me a sec, chat. I'm just trying to find something. Okay, so it says that 40% of these boys are engineers. So I came across one article which was saying 80% of them are graduates. I thought it was the same article, but maybe it's a different article. So it said 80% of the delivery boys today are basically graduates. They have some sort of a degree. Of those 80%, 40% have an engineering degree in specific. And only 20% of the delivery boys are not graduates. So what's happening with private sectors? I'm taking a degree for engineering. I'm getting graduated from college. I'm getting in student loans, paying so much money, wasting so much time, so many years in getting a bachelor's degree. Why are engineers becoming delivery boys for Zomato, P2, Swiggy? Why are they having to do that?
So, that's a great question there. And, we'll just, let's interact with that question using the slides in our presentation, because I think that will thoroughly answer that question. Why are these educated young men being forced into these, unsecured, unprivileged jobs if they have literal engineering degrees? All right, so let me just get back to this presentation.
Okay.
The state of the private sector in India. Wages solo, it's not even a career. It's a slow bleeding death. So India produces 1.5 crore graduates every single year. The placement of these graduates into a formal private sector job is 15 to 20%. There is your answer, my good friend. If only 20% of these graduates get a formal private sector job, the other 80% will inevitably have to work in these informal, these are informal private jobs, because the placement ratio is so less. But they do have to pay back their bills now, don't they? So they have no other option but to work these jobs. It's because of a lack of quality of jobs, or perhaps an oversupply of graduates. The 60% of these people who got the job, 60% of the 15 to 20%, earn less than 15,000 per month. These are people with graduate jobs who were fortunate enough to make it into the 1/5 to actually get a formal private sector jobs, and they make less than 15,000 a month. No offense, but your average mochi, if he's fairly good at his craft, will make more money than that in a month. There is no PF, there is no job security, and there are no benefits. This is according to State of Working India Report 2023. Again, this is a government report. The median salary is 21,000 per month. This is median salary. This is not entry level salary. This is the middle of the working private sector jobs educated population of India. This is not a starting salary. And this has remained unchanged for 8 years. This is according to Niti Aayog's audit. Niti Aayog is the supreme economic body in our nation, and it concedes that the median salary of every single person who has a private sector formal job is 21,000 per month, and it has remained unchanged for 8 years.
That's crazy. So basically the wages are not really going up. I mean, I can't imagine having to. Yeah, go ahead.
This is a median salary, my friend. So this is just a middle number in the entire pyramid. This is not even a starting salary. This can
That's
be
crazy.
a 46-year-old working or a 21-year-old working, because medians are essentially random numbers in the middle of the entire bulk.
Yeah, I think you can go forward from here.
All right, let's move forward.
I think my chat is digesting that information.
These are the productivity and the wages chart, right?
Okay, so
the data on wages from workers in private sector compared to productivity in total economy. Economic Policy Institute. Look at this. Look at the net productivity from 1950 to 2018, which is the last year until which valid usable data is present to us. It's
Okay.
52.9% growth.
so pause
While
here.
on the same time, the hourly compensation has only grown from 115.6%.
So I mean,
That means-
DKG, it looks like it's just stagnant. It hasn't really gone up since 1970, so it's been almost
it's
about
not
50
stagnated.
years.
No, it's not even stagnated. It's actually gotten less. Because
Because
look
of
at this,
inflation.
look at this. No, look at this. From 1950 to 1970, productivity and the hourly compensation the workers got for their productivity was essentially the same.
Right.
Right, but it has basically split off into different universes. You are getting robbed of literally 140% of what you were supposed to get. Even if the most basic economic methodology was followed.
So just
Basic economic methodology.
So just pause here for 1 second. So chat, early on you were asking for solutions, and I said I can't give you solution, but I'll tell you the real problem. So DKG, we will come back to this chart after you finish this segment of the slide.
So,
And I'm gonna ask you a question to you and the chat, and I want to see if you guys can answer it. But yeah, I think so. What I meant by seeing this chart is that we're seeing the split in probably around 1970. And what I meant by stagnation is that productivity is going up, but the wages are not, right? So that's the split. Yeah, but I think you can go forward from here, and then we'll come back to this graph again.
all right, let us move forward now. The private sector added around 2.9 lakh formal jobs, of which, as I have told you before, the situation of these formal jobs in 2023. That is 60%, though that was 60,000 less in 2024. So those 2.9 lakh jobs, which again is paying you like a median of 21,000 rupees, were themselves reduced by 60,000 in 2024. So there were 2.5 lakh layoffs in 2024. So more people were laid off than people were hired, while the economy grew. So you are watching a net deflation in salaried workers. So that means there were 550 cutoffs per day, layoffs per day. That is 555 people lost their jobs every day, and 23 people lost their jobs every hour.
That's insane.
These are 23 families who will not have their bread secured for the next few days. And this was when the amount of what you consider recruitment was themselves decreasing. This is insane. Whenever an economy grows, salaried job opportunities also grow. This is basic economics. But in India, while the economy grew, the salaried job opportunities actually decreased. These were inversely proportional to each other. Now let's move forward. There was a 50% increase in layoffs every year. That means if yesterday 100 people were, in last year 100 people were let go, this year 150 people will be let go, right? The largest layoff in history happened in India. More than 21,000 employees were laid off by Intel. 21,000.
So that is insane. So I have some sources for this data that you sent me. Let me just show the chat. Okay, and I think you misread one thing where it says 60,000 in 2024. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's 2.9 lakhs minus 60,000. That's not what it means. It means that in total in 2024 they added only 60,000 jobs compared to 2.9 lakh in 2023. So it's like how much? 5 times less.
1.3 lakhs.
So it's 5 times less than what they did in 2023. Just for the chat, I'm going to show you where these sources are coming from. Okay, just give me a moment. So I have them open on my screen. Let me share it with you also, DKJ. Okay, and then we'll go back to that graph, and I want to ask you all a very interesting question. I want to see how many people can answer that. Okay, so this is, wait, no, I think we'll go to the other one first. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this is National Association of Software and Service Companies. So they said in financial year 2023, there were 2.9 lakh new jobs here, right? That same number went from 2.7 lakhs in financial year 2023 to only 60,000 new jobs were added in financial year 2024. So tech layoffs hit 100,000 plus in 2025. So this year alone, until June, we have already hit 100,000 plus layoffs. And it says right here, Intel plans 21,000 plus job cuts in largest tech layoff in its history.
And the authority you have used, although it is as close to a legitimate authority we get, has a notorious, you would say it has a notorious reputation for inflating numbers to make the government look good. Right?
Okay,
so even those numbers are probably some sort of twists in the methodology to inflate it. But it is the most legitimate number we have right now.
Um, okay. So can we go back to that graph?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we are back at it.
Okay, let me read some chat quickly, then I'm gonna ask people if they know what the problem is here. Okay, engineering is just overcrowded. There are no jobs left for them. Yeah, it looks like it's oversaturated. 1.5 crore graduates, yes. AI developing with time will worsen these numbers. What do you think about that, DKG? He says,
He is 100% correct. AI is going to decimate what you would consider. I read a report. It's called State of the World, State of the Working World. It's 2023 basically, and it was talking about what jobs AI will, replace. So what it said is that jobs which do not require critical thinking and are repetitive in nature are the first which will go. For example, you have your accountants, basic accountants, you have your typewriters, and you have these jobs which don't require a lot of skill and are just based on repetition. Yeah, they are off, and these are a huge bunch of the already tiny amount of salaried jobs that we have in India. But the non-salaried jobs, such as your mistries or your leather workers, they are not going to go anywhere. That's because having AI there is going to be it's going to be net loss for the people. It's not profitable.
yeah,
While on
and
the other hand, having AI in salaried jobs, clearing off what you would consider the lower end of the salaried jobs is going to be very profitable for these institutions.
okay, and let me ask you an interesting question, okay? So I used to come across these reports from Oxfam, which would basically read something like climate change disproportionately affects women. So it would invite a lot of donations and funding to protect women from climate change. Now, I don't want to argue whether it's misleading or not. I personally think it's misleading. But I don't want to focus on that today. But if the world can recognize that women can be vulnerable from certain things, I think men are vulnerable more with AI development. What do I mean by that? So, chat, I don't know how many of you know this, but the IQ distribution for men is distributed across, right? Like there are guys in IQ 50, IQ 70, IQ 90, 100, right? I would say it's concentrated in the middle, but it's also spread across. But for women, the IQ distribution is very focused in the middle, right? They're not on the lower end. They're also not on the higher end. So there are a lot more guys on the lower end. There are a lot more guys in the higher end, and women are just in the middle with bumper safety. So when you talk about AI, like you were just saying, DKG, is that the first jobs that AI will replace are the ones that don't require problem solving. They don't require critical thinking. So you would think of a guy, for example, who used to work, as an example, in Ford assembly line back in the day, right? Or in Dodge assembly line. And all they used to do is that they would just assemble the car parts. Now, if you look at, for example, Tesla, a lot of those jobs have been automated, right? So there are some humans, but then there are robots who are basically, they've replaced the humans. So AI would continue to replace, these IQ 50, IQ 70, IQ 80, IQ 90 kind of guys. Because their work is probably very simple in nature. It's like pick something up, drop something somewhere, right? And or you can look at software type of jobs. Hey, you just have to enter the data from here to here. It requires no problem solving. So essentially, the AI would replace them, and guys would feel the worst of it. They are most likely to go unemployed a lot faster than women. So don't you think that there should be like a special attention or a UBI announced? By UBI, chat, I mean universal basic income for the dudes who are most vulnerable. But instead, I am seeing a effort in announcing freebies for women, but almost nothing for the guys. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, in an ideal world, we would have institutions to protect these vulnerable men. We would have laws. We would have a great, not, we would have far-reaching social security nets. But in this world, we don't, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. for the very simple reason that it is not profitable at all to give a damn about working class or lower middle income men. Like literally no one cares. Even other lower middle income men don't care as far as until it's them.
I think generally the way the society is going right now, until it affects the majority of men, they don't really care. But what's going to happen is that as AI continues to develop at a faster rate, more and more men are going to feel it. But certainly in the early stages, few will feel that, right, at the lower end. But it eventually will catch up with a lot more. So, okay, so let's go back to that graph. Let me ask people something. Okay, give me a sec. So we'll go on a little bit of a... Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to disagree with you a bit there. I don't think men will ever wake up.
Okay.
That is because women primarily identify with their gender. That is why you hear voices of international women solidarity. But men do not identify with their gender as a whole, right? Men identify either with their tribe, they identify with their tribe. It may be economic, it may be cultural, it may be casteist, it may be racial. They identify and work for the welfare of their tribe, not for their gender as a whole. Let me just summarize this in one quick one-liner. Women look at other women as potential kitty party partners. Men look at other men as potential enemies.
Yeah.
So yeah, the men are never going to wake up. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's a unity and division type of thing, which we discuss a lot on this channel.
Very simply saying, men had to fight other men to survive. So it's
Correct.
very, very deeply ingrained in our psychology. Women didn't have to. Women had to watch other men fight other men to survive.
You know, I could give you a nuanced rebuttal to that, but I'll save it. I will invite you one more time for that discussion, because it'll get a little derailed today.
Yeah, sure. Let's stick to the situation.
Yeah, so the graph that you're seeing on the screen, okay, I want to ask you something, DKG, and everybody in the chat. So we're talking about debt. You know, men are drowning in debt. The wages have stagnated and housing has gone up. You could afford it with 1 year's clerk salary in 1950. Now you were saying it takes 40 to 400 years to acquire the same land. That's how high the cost has gone, but the salaries have not. So you're looking at this graph here. This is more from US, right? And it clearly shows, let me move my screen. Hold on one moment. Okay, so basically it shows that since 1970 to 71, the wages didn't grow, but the productivity did grow. So all of this debt trap, all of this cost inflation, does anybody in the chat want to guess what is the root cause of it? There is only one thing that is the root cause of it. DKG, do you want to take any guesses?
Ronald fucking Reagan.
Why do you think it's Reagan?
You know, these were already always inbuilt in the system, but Reagan just let them go loose in the United States. And because the United States has always been the economic leader of the world, other economic models, or other countries followed the economic model suit. India followed it a bit late, but essentially it is Reagan who has gotten us to the situation we are in today.
Okay, chat, how many of you think it's Reagan? How many of you think it's like simple things like inflation, automation? Does anybody have any guesses? Because I have an answer. And it's wild. Okay, so let me take you on a storyline. Okay, chat, let me know if you have any guesses. I'm looking at your chat, okay? But I don't see any as of right now. Okay. Oh my god, not this again. I triggered the wrong button. So DKG, we'll take a minute to fix your screen first, and then I'll show you what the real problem is, okay? Just give me a second.
FBI, open up!
Yeah, just, okay, let's... What is happening? Can you say something? DKG, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Give me one more moment.
All right.
I think we're good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so chat, let me take you on a storyline, okay? Where is my screen here? Okay, let me share it with you. So a lot of you were recommending me to check out Shoe on Head for a long time. And I have not really been watching her videos, but I do watch Asmongold as a streamer a lot, okay? And he was reacting to one of her recent videos. So she said something interesting to me about this productivity and wage stagnation gap, okay? And I want you guys to listen to it and let me know whether or not you agree with her. And what she's really speculating is the causation. What is the reason for this wage and productivity stagnation? Let's see if our guess is right, okay? You can see it, right, DKG? Is it showing on your screen?
Right.
It is, okay.
Today, she was arrested for molesting a 12-year-old boy. So today, we are learning about the graph. This is the growth in productivity versus hourly compensation graph. And you can trace almost everything bad happening in society back to this graph. As you can see, productivity increased while compensation barely grew over the same time period. Notice they tracked very closely up until around 1972. Now, what happened around 1972, class? Well, the top marginal tax rate was reduced from 70% in 1964 to 50% by 1981. The federal minimum wage began to stagnate. Income going to the 1% rose from 9% in the 60s to 16% in 2023. CEOs also went from making 20 times more than the average worker to making 350 times more than the average worker. Anything else? Anything else happen around 1972? Yes, Jimmy, that is correct. Women joined the workforce around this time, but we don't have to get into that today.
Okay, so chat, how many of you agree with her? So she thinks something happened around 1971. According to her, it's like marginal tax rate plus women entering the workforce. And she says because of all of this, productivity grew, and a CEO went from making 20 times more income than the average guy to 350 times more than the average guy. How many of you agree with her that this is the actual cause? DKG, what do you think? What is your opinion on that? Do you think this is true?
I think Shoe on Head is on something here. There is certainly absolutely undeniable evidence that the entry of females into the workforce en masse led to wage depression. No doubt about that. But I would still ultimately concede that the policies of the Reagan administration and the copy-paste of those policies around the world is the primary reason for the shithole we are in right now. But I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm saying that there is undeniable evidence of wage depression.
Okay,
right?
well,
but I think this theory needs to be expanded upon more.
Okay, so I'm so sorry to tell you, I think you're all wrong. So what do I mean by that? Okay, I'll explain. So she says in 1971, what else happened? Marginal tax rate and women entering the workforce. But guess what else also happened, DKG, in 1971?
What? The Indo-Pakistan war?
No. So I asked you earlier, you said it was Reagan's fault. It's actually Nixon's fault. So what do I mean by Nixon's fault? So this is all because of the fact that Nixon decoupled
The gold
dollar from the
standard,
gold.
Gold stand, yeah, fair enough.
So that also happened in 1971. And if you can see,
and then that allowed Reagan to do what he did.
okay, I don't know what Reagan did, but let me explain. So what happened?
Essentially, the economic policies of Reagan could only exist because of the decoupling of the dollar from the gold standard. Yes,
Right.
You are correct. I didn't see that. You're correct.
Okay, so let me play something and then I will explain this really quickly and then we'll get your thoughts on this. Okay, so I think this documentary, will see some 30-second clip. It'll explain it very well for people who don't know what fiat currency is or how it used to work before, how it works now. And it must be very confusing, right? Because these are a lot of terms, and how does it affect a middle-class man? It's very hard to understand. So I'll explain it. Let's play this first.
Tons
Okay.
of money without raising taxes or draining their treasuries. And by the 20th century, bonds went global. World War I and II pushed countries to borrow at an unprecedented scale, not just to fight, but to rebuild. Then, in 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement made the US dollar the centerpiece of the global financial system. Currencies were tied to the dollar was tied to gold, but gold was limited, and economies had to grow. As the US ramped up spending, there wasn't enough gold to back the flood of dollars in circulation. So in 1971, President Nixon broke the link, ending the gold standard. From that point on, money became what we now call fiat currency, not backed by gold or anything physical, just by government decree. Governments could now create at will, and if that sounds like a recipe for endless borrowing, it was. From the 1980s onwards, global debt exploded. Countries discovered that borrowing wasn't just useful in war.
So do you see that graph? It looks very similar to wages stagnation and productivity growth.
Wartime, it could fuel the economy's growth too. And so borrow they did, to build schools, repair roads, and even to carry the economy out of recession. Debt became the engine of progress for first and third world countries alike, and over time, it stopped being a last resort and became the norm.
Okay, so let me take you to this graph. So the graph that was showing on the video, DKG, is for US only. This is the global debt for the entire world. You see right here in 1976, it is going up, and it suddenly skyrockets. And right now, here we are, $224 trillion. So for people who don't understand what Bretton Woods Agreement was when dollar was tied to a gold, it had a fixed amount. You had $35 was going to be returned with an ounce of gold, something like that. Look it up, right? And it was a fixed price. It could not change. Anybody who had $35, they would get an ounce of gold. Essentially, what started happening was that US would print more money, and their gold reserves started depleting. I had asked Grok about this. I think they said something like they had 40,000 tons or 80,000 tons. Look up the number, right? I think it'll give you the information. And by 1970, it had come down to 8,000. That was because they would print more money, so more dollars would come in people's hand, and then when they exchange it for the gold reserves were depleting. So Nixon ended up decoupling it from the dollar. But now the positive side of that was that progress became very easy, right? You could put a lot more money into the economy because you were not limited by having reserves for that money. You could just borrow endlessly. You could print as much money as you wanted to. So that's why we went into this rapid high growth phase where we built very, very fast. But as a result of that, when you create a borrowing economy, I want you guys to all think of something, okay? Let's say we were talking about the land as an example. It takes you 10 years to acquire the amount of money you need to buy a land. If somebody can just borrow it in a flash of a second, you cannot compete with that guy. It's like basically a donkey is trying to race with a spaceship that travels at a speed of light. Before, people had to acquire the income, save it, and then buy something and own it. Now, somebody could acquire your entire lifetime worth of wealth in a flash of a second without needing to think about it. So when you raise the standard that high, then it creates like a oversupply of people who can hog the resources at a faster rate I mean, it's like exponentially faster rate than somebody who's saving. And so the only way, so this is where you were saying, right? The same plot in Delhi now costs 1.2 crore. It used to be affordable with 1 year salary in 1950. Now you need 40 to 400 years to afford that. Well, that's because the resources that we had, the land that we had, got all hogged up by these borrowers who would get the money instantly. And so since the resources are limited and they have hogged it all up, the ones that are left are very minimal and their value has gone really high. And so it's totally unaffordable for the people who want to save. The only way you can compete is you can enter the borrowing market too. You can also get instant loans. You can also then compete with these guys. But if you do, then everybody is drowning in this quicksand of debt. So it's like never ending problem with fiat currency. What do you think? Is this realistic?
I think it's an interesting idea, but I'm not as well read on that subject, so I'll have to research it independently to come to any conclusion.
Okay, sure. So, Chad, I personally think that has what led to the collapse. But I think, DKG, you have a lot more to share with us. Okay, so let me ask you an interesting question. So we were just talking about jobs. They're really bad in public sector. They're really bad in private sector. What is the state of academia, right? So we were talking about how somebody who's getting a college graduate degree, having to become a Zomato delivery guy. I've seen some reports of, for example, these influencers like Dolly Chaiwala, or we'll look at Rebel Kid. I'm not claiming these numbers, but the media is reporting that Dolly Chaiwala would charge probably 4 lakhs fee to appear. I don't think he has a degree. Rebel Kid's net worth was, I don't know, 4 crores. Chad, look it up on Google. It's something crazy number like that. It was saying she probably makes 2.5 lakh daily. I don't know if that number is exaggerated, but what I'm trying to ask is that why are our educated men broke where these influencers who have no academic background or no education are making exponentially more money than them? What do you think is happening there?
I think we just have a stupid population. That's what's happening. Because I don't think, as much as I don't like these two, especially Dolly Chaiwala, I don't think they existing or not existing in any significant way hampers or, in any way affects the economy. So the reason for their success is that the population, especially the audience in India, for mass content is exceptionally stupid.
Okay. I think your audio has switched again. There's some static coming from there. See if you can switch the microphone again. So I'll take you. I'll take you back to your screen. Give me one moment.
Hello.
There's still some static. It's like a vibration noise that's coming across.
Is it all right now?
Nope.
That's weird.
It's better now. It's good now. It's good now.
All right. Right. So let's move on with our presentation, if that's not a problem.
Yeah. Go for it.
All right. So what's the state of education in India? So in 1950, a college degree meant status, job security, home, family, and respect in society. That's what it meant. And respect from your peers. Now it doesn't mean anything. It has essentially been reduced to a giant cash grab scam. So state investment in education was rupees 16.3 pursuant in 1950s, which is around 6.87 crores total. The literacy rate in 1950 was 27%. It's now 84.7%, and that's good. But what comes with these facts and the facts that we find out later, which are above the base, which is the literacy rate, are not so good. The total number of students in 1950 were 2.9 lakhs. Now it is around 33 lakhs. So The government job conversion rate, assuming that a good amount of these students, or all of these students, a good amount of these students are aspirants for a government job, comes to 30% in 1950. That's a huge number, and less than 1% of graduates today. So in 1950, if 100 students wanted to get a government job, 30 of them would. That's because there was not a complete oversupply of aspirants. While in India, if 1,000 people want a government job, only 10 of them would get a government job. Sorry, only 9 of them would get a government job, because it's less than 1%. The unemployment rate among illiterates was 0.2%. Among educated classes, it's 6.3%, using the same methodology. That's more than, that's how much more? That's almost 30%, 35% more. Why is this? Well, it's very simple. Degrees
Bro,
are
that's
high.
not 35% more. That's like 6 times
That's
more.
35x. That's 35.
35x more. Okay.
That doesn't make it any better. The state of education in India, you have a large amount of degrees being granted, but the skills that come along with the supposed education, which was the reason that the degree was granted, are extremely shallow. The market is extremely saturated, and there are simply not enough jobs to match degrees. Essentially, we are looking at a huge oversupply of poorly skilled, substandard graduates. Only 50% of graduate students in India are employable by industry standards, and 4.1% of vocationally trained workers. So basically, if 200 people are graduating in my university, only 100% would even qualify the basic criteria for being granted a job. I'm not saying they'll get a job. They will just barely qualify. And also we have to answer the reservation question. People, and it's a bit more complex, I suppose. But the fact of the matter is that reservation has had a largely negative impact on our system of education. Now it's more complex, I would concede, than this. But let's look at the facts that we have gathered relating to what we have here today.
Yeah, so I think when we were comparing like 1950 to now, I think the men in that generation had a very fair shot, right? But if you look at it now, like they didn't need a caste certificate. They needed brains.
They largely did not.
Right. So why is it that in India today, even if you're a genius, you still lose to somebody's surname? What's happening with merit? Yeah, can you explain that a little bit more?
If you just follow general news like current affairs, I don't think I need to tell you that. Because there's really nothing. This particular topic is so thoroughly explained. It is so thoroughly, there's nothing I can add. It's vote bank politics, and obviously, it's just vote bank politics. Honestly, it's not anything else. I'm not going to make it is complicated, but it does not need to be more complicated than this.
I think the constitution was also drafted by a kind of like a communist. So he has a lot of
communists.
Yeah,
Every single one of them was a communist.
I don't you think like he opened up the gateway for all of this agendas to come in, because reservations could have been prevented.
I think that's a question. I think it would have been better if it was just left to the states. Right, with like a limit, and it would have been better if the judiciary had not been complete cowards and they had actually enforced the 50% limit.
But did you see what happened in Bangladesh? They also had the reservation conflict in their country.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, that's because, look, the fact of the matter is what happened in Bangladesh, was because a very very small population was getting a large number. Right. So the very small population could not actively fight back. While there is enough people in India that if reservations are thrown back in an instant, there is indeed a significant chance of mass scale ethnic violence.
Yeah, I think the problem is that in India, when you talk about reservations, these reservations are not for a minority, because when they reserve SC, ST, OBC, if I'm not wrong, they make up for probably 70% of the population. So
I think that's more or less.
more okay, so if the population is that large, and if you talk about taking reservations away from them, like, it would really hurt the sentiments, and that's what results in not only the voter-based loss, but also, resentment, contempt, divisions. So yeah, I think there is some point to the fact that I don't even know if we can get out of this. Like, we're sucked into a trap that we're gonna be in it forever, because how can you take something back after giving it to them?
We are not getting out of this.
Okay, so I'll let you continue with this. So it says reservation versus merit. Oh, jeez. Okay.
So 1950s was more or less women merit dominated, because there was no OBC reservation, because that came in 1990. There was no women reservation, and because the amount of educated people who could avail SC/ST reservation was so low that the vast majority of unfilled seats in that category went to the general category. So that's like 95% general category students, or general category seats. Civil service, the UPSC was 400 IPS posts of a 30% selection rate, because as I have established earlier. So most graduates got jobs. Youth unemployment was very low. Government job was merit based and accessible. So of course I want to point something out, that if you go back to party propaganda of the 1950s, obviously they will talk about unemployment. That's because that is what parties do. But now that we have, looking back at it after 70 years, we have the advantage of retrospect, and we can retrospectively, by comparing it to the standards today, conclude fairly that there wasn't a much of a youth unemployment issue. So let's talk about now. Let's talk about reservation, expansion and unemployment. Post 1990s, the Mandal Commission, EWS and women reservation, right? States like Bihar and Tamil Nadu have 75% jobs or college seats reserved. 75%, right? So that's 75%. So civil services, less than 2% selection criteria, and there are I think this is like 1 lakh plus aspirants is actually kind of like an understatement, because there are more. Youth unemployment is 13.3%. Educated youth unemployment is 29%. That means that in practice, 1 in 3 youth is unemployed, while an uneducated youth, they're only 10%. It's almost twice the number. It's more than twice the number actually.
Bro, 1 in 3 young youth, it's young people, 1 in 3 is unemployed that are educated.
Educated young people.
Yo, that's crazy.
Right, so if you literally don't go to college, you will probably have like more chances of getting employment. I'm not saying don't go to college, but I'm just saying.
So
right,
let me. So
is this the end of the book? Yeah, that's basically the end of the.
Bro, let me
That's
ask
the
you
end of our
something.
presentation.
All these black pills that you just fed us, doom and gloom, like, seriously, like, what do you see how do you see the landscape going forward from here? Like, you just talked about reservation, the probability of somebody getting a job, the oversaturation of market with degrees but not enough jobs for them. The educated are more unemployed than the illiterates. Illiterates have 35 times more employment than the educated youth. So where do you see all of this going? Do you see, like, can you suggest anything to the audience? Because these are young guys, they're getting into the job market, they're thinking about their careers. So what's the best way of going forward? Any idea?
The best way to go forward, I want you to do something. I want you to go to the official website of Canada and I want you to click on the visa. Alright, okay, joke aside, it's probably only about to get worse. So the best bet you have is to work hard enough to be able to isolate yourself into private spaces, right? Private walled neighborhoods, so that you can at least in some capacity save yourself from the absolute shithole, absolute shit show which is this country. So it's only about to get worse.
Wow, man, I'm just in shock. Also, since we were talking about the reservation, any thoughts on fields that are female dominated? Like,
The government services are female dominated.
yeah, even the healthcare sector is female dominated, right?
70% of females find employment in the government services.
Wow, okay.
And it's like, I call this the pussification of the government, which I didn't know was possible because it's already so shit. But, and the worst things, what's the worst thing up? I think you have seen the judiciary. There is a push within the judiciary to add more females in the upper council judiciary, in the high courts, in the supreme courts. A very visible push. So the judgments that you see, which are just like absolutely ridiculously stupid, are going to increase manifold. But and a lot of people talk about prenups in India, that you should get a prenup. I don't think they know that you really can't get a prenup in India. Like, you can't legally get a prenup in India. In India, prenup agreements are not legally binding and are generally not enforceable in courts.
Can I ask you something? So in this bad economy, does it even make sense to have children or marriages?
I won't say anything, but how do I say? Because I cannot tell a young man not to have children, because essentially that's the baseline biological feature for what a young man works. So I can't tell him to cut off his bloodline.
But how is the bloodline gonna benefit you?
I really don't have any answer to that, honestly. But I think you'll be.
Okay, let me ask you. So,
But I will say something. Is that there are prenup in India are legally not enforceable. As in, they don't exist. I mean, that's not even like the prenups in India, the law. Prenups in India are not enforceable in courts. It's literally just a paper that you have. If it's not enforceable in courts, then it doesn't have any value.
So
That's why I get a bit tired when people start repeating prenup, because I don't think they realize that it simply is not enforceable in India. It doesn't exist.
But I think that's the problem, that information is not reaching the majority of men in India, so they probably don't know that. But yeah, prenup isn't really valid. So let me show something. Then I want to ask you about. Hold on. So we were talking about reservation, right? When I said I talk about female-dominated jobs. Okay, so there is now a 50% female reservation in government jobs. Guess for which job? L1 teachers. So L1 teachers right now are female-dominated. So even the jobs that are female-dominated, we're giving reservation and keeping men out there, right? This is IIM Rohtak.
Yeah, I actually had offers to study at IIM Rohtak.
Okay, so it says it gave an MBA offer letter to 434 females and only 19 males.
Yeah, so I think IIM Rohtak is actually an exception, because IIM Rohtak is notoriously bad for pinkwashing everything.
Okay, now check this out. I just realized I didn't share my screen with you. Hold on, let me get you the screen.
Sure.
Okay, so Delhi University Admission 2024 to 2025. DU introduces reservation for single girl child.
Yes, it's very interesting. And I don't want to dox myself, but this is my alma mater.
Wow.
I am, this building, my classroom is actually just like a few meters away from the gate.
So I don't
Right.
see my point is, right, and before,
Yeah, I don't want to dox myself. I think I have said enough.
yeah, that's
But
fine.
it's like, yeah. I mean,
so-
why would anyone want to find me?
So before we move towards the closure, chat, if you have any questions, ask away. All right. I think you guys have been very quiet for the last 10-15 minutes. But if you have any questions, let me know. I'll direct him to DKG. But follow his channel if you like his research. My only question is, right, if you agree with my analysis where I said fiat currency is responsible for endless borrowing, and endless borrowing is responsible for unaffordability for the guys who want to save. So either you can enter the borrowing cycle and always remain in debt, or you can save, but by saving you cannot compete with the borrowers. There are not enough resources left for you. Add into that the AI is coming in. Now there's a report which is not a research paper but rather a storyline narrative from the researchers. It's called AI 2027. Some people have made very interesting videos on that narrative, so you can look it up on YouTube as well. But essentially it predicts that AI development will increase the rate of progress exponentially. And that means less and less jobs for humans, worse and worse economy, more and more unemployment. You'll be paying a lot more to get a lot less. So when people talk about, like, I want to have marriage and children, don't you think that the children that you're bringing into the economy, as it continues to get worse, that they will suffer? So what is even the point? I'm not trying to discourage people from not having or not having a baby, right? It's totally their choices. But at the same time, I'm just saying that it doesn't look good. What does it look like to you? Like, do you think it will improve? There is any chance? Or like, I think people who are coming in might be in worse position that we are in right now. So this is what the growth looks like now. You can assume that this is 1980. Okay. This is 2024, 2025. We are growing at this rate. This is the growth. Essentially, it's predicted that now that AI is being developed, the rate of growth is about to shoot up exponentially. Given that you earlier learned that...
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
So...
I answered a question you never asked. My bad.
Yeah, correct.
There's nothing you can do.
So, okay, wait. So, just like...
Okay, so...
Wait, let me finish. Just like Ford assembly line was replaced by automation, right? And whatever replacement and elimination we were having of jobs, right? We were only having at this rate. Now that it's going to shoot up now, right? And you said it earlier yourself, the critical thinking, problem solving, the people who can do critical thinking, problem solving will be first to be replaced. But with this rate of growth, I think everybody's time is about to end. Software jobs will go first.
Yes.
And then as soon as robots come in, the physical jobs will start diminishing as well. So when people talk about, dropping birth rate and dropping population, what is the use case for a population now? Either you're telling me that you're going to roll back the fiat currency and you're going to roll back the AI, right? So that humans have a job to do and better conditions to live in. But if you're saying that fiat currency, the way it's going, the borrowing will continue to get worse, the development progress will continue to improve, and the human beings will continue to get replaced by AI, then what is the use case of having babies?
There is no usefulness to having babies. It's more metaphysical. It is your duty as a man to make sure that your lineage lives.
To what?
There's really
To
no-
suffer?
No, because it won't suffer. What you are not putting in you, my friend, is that the regime already knows this.
Yeah.
People on top are not stupid enough to see this not happening. So either they will make sure they will put restrictions on the growth of AI to make sure that the working class has things to work on.
No, but why would they do that? Because like you saw that like you saw that CEOs went from having 20 times more income than average guy to now having 350 times more. So the people at the top that are developing it, they have the most profits to gain from automation, like always.
No,
So-
no, you're wrong.
So
That
wait,
is
wait,
because, okay, let me just
So-
answer you something. Let's say that you are a CEO today and you are exploiting the middle class. It is your duty to make sure that there is a somewhat stable supply of the middle class. If the middle class vanishes to such an extent, then the power that you have over them and your stream of income also vanishes. Therefore, you will introduce something to make sure that the middle class remains or at least shrinks very slowly so that you can keep making the profits that you are making right now. That is why every single major CEO backs universal basic income, because that will provide their customers with a stream of disposable income that they can then spend.
I will think over it. However, I think, are we in acknowledgement that at least it'll be like a robot slave system? All the robots are slaves, so humans are not needed to do a lot of the work.
Yes,
So if you're saying if you have a UBI, universal basic income, so that people can spend, right, and all the slaves can do the work. How much of a population do you think is sustainable in numbers?
in numbers, probably less than what we have today. That's because, but I'll say like 5 billion.
Okay, and have you seen AI 2027 report? It basically
I'll
said
have to read it.
it basically said that anytime somebody comes up with an invention, it is not made public.
Yeah,
The most updated invention is kept in secrecy and exploited and only made public when they have advanced it by multiple more levels, and then they keep those levels secret and release the other ones. So the AI 2027 report said that basically these AI development companies, they have a lot more advanced agents or a lot more advanced AI than the ones that is known to public. And with the rapid pace that these agents are developing in secrecy, there is a possibility that they're also learning or going to learn in the next 2 to 3 years the ability to manage and govern. And what that means is that they said it will have a better judgment, better.
The AI 2027. This isn't real.
I know it's not real. Like I said earlier, this is not a study. It is a predictable storyline by some researchers. It gives you basically a thought process to understand the possible outcomes to possible
Yes,
possible choices. Yeah, possible
it's
choices.
an
Well,
interesting exercise.
yeah, but all
Very
I'm asking.
interesting exercise,
No,
I'll have
but
to-
yeah, take a look at it later. But all I'm trying to say is that it operates in general ballpark of critical thinking that all of these things are a realistic possibility. And if there is an AI that can perform better engineering tasks than Einstein and better political tasks than some of the best politicians, then it will know how to deceive humans without them being able to catch on to it. And it will also be able to replace humans for essentially not being useful. They're rather, UBI is rather a cost than a benefit to AI, right? Not to the humans, but to AI, it's a cost, not a benefit. So I'm just saying, like, all of these things are possibilities. So what are we really having children and marriages for? It's stopped making sense to me. The economy is anyway bad, and it's going to continue to get worse. And then there's a possibility that the future generation might suffer more. Right now, 30% of the millennials are in debt, 40% of Gen Z are in debt. And with each generation, it's going to get worse and worse. So what's the point?
Well, I guess what's the point is what you make of it. I have no answer for you, man.
Okay. I'll let you give the concluding remarks before we close the show. Chad, if you're still here, please follow DKG, support him. I think we need more talent like him. But yeah, DKG, closing remarks on our stream today. What do you want to say?
Concluding remarks. We are screwed. We have been screwed for a while, and we are going to continue to be screwed. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was a pleasure to be on your show. And that's all I want to say.
I hope you enjoyed the show, Chad. I'll probably see you next weekend. I don't see any chat, so I don't think I have anything to answer. But thank you so much for joining. Anybody who did, please click subscribe. Go join our Discord. The link's in the description. DKG's channel is also in the pinned chat and the description. But I'll see you next weekend. Bye, chat. Bye.